Secretary of State John Kerry recently announced that negotiations with Iran over its nuclear program would be extended until June of 2015. Joining us for more on this is Mark Dubowitz, Executive Director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Sir, great to have you on the broadcast. Mark, Iran has been working on this nuclear weapon for 12 years now. Are we at the point of, that these negotiations are pretty much useless?
Well, it's certainly starting to appear that way, George. I mean, the Iranians have been playing us for decades. They've been working on this nuclear program. They've been lying about it. They've been deceiving the international community. And they've been using negotiations as a way to advance their nuclear program and actually relieve the sanctions pressure. Mm-hmm. The United States, our response has been to continue to give them more and more nuclear concessions. And I think all of this is doing is it's hardening their nuclear intransigence as they continue to move their nuclear program in some very, very disturbing ways.
Do you get a sense that with the new Congress sworn in next month that anything will change, or are we dealing with the status quo?
Certainly, the president has made it very clear that he's going to veto any legislation that comes out of Congress. I mean, remember, Congress actually imposed the toughest sanctions against Iran over the president's objections. And these are the sanctions that got Iran to the negotiating table in the first place. So Congress is saying...
And do they continue to bite? Do they continue to affect the Iranian economy?
Well, they do, except Iran's economy last year was on its back. Now it's on its knees, getting up to its feet. And so the economic pressure is coming off. The economy is not booming in Iran, but they're not facing the kind of economic imminent collapse that they faced last year. So they don't have the incentive anymore to actually compromise. And that's the problem, and that's what Congress is trying to address.
And I'm sure it doesn't help when Iran continues to make these lucrative deals with, for example, Russia and China on the side.
Well, that's exactly right, because Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has said repeatedly to his people, I have a plan B. My plan B is I'm going to escape from Western sanctions by doing deals with the Russians and with the Chinese and with the Turks, and I'm going to get billions of dollars of their money pouring into my economy, so I don't have to compromise with the West.
How far, in your assessment, do you think Iran's nuclear program is today?
So the various elements of Iran's nuclear program, their ability to enrich uranium, which is an essential element to build a nuclear weapon. We know today they're only about 2.5 months away from breakout, which is the amount of time it takes to weaponize the uranium. They also need a delivery vehicle, which is a long-range ballistic missile. We know they're working on an intercontinental ballistic missile, which we think they may have by 2015 or 2016. That has our address on it. That's directed at the United States of America. But the missing element is their nuclear warhead. We don't know whether they're continuing to work on their warhead, where they're working on their warhead, because we have no ability to go in there and find out. And they've been stonewalling the international community for decades.
You've written about what you call Iran's golden loophole. Explain that.
Well, at the time, Iran's golden loophole was this loophole in U.S. sanctions that allowed Iran to sell energy to the Turks and in exchange get gold. So literally billions of dollars of gold was leaving Turkey to Iran, and the Iranians were taking that gold and they were using it to replenish their foreign exchange reserves. That gas for gold, as it was called, turned into a $100 billion plus massive corruption scandal that implicated some of the top ministers of Turkey's government, including the Prime Minister Erdogan's son. And so it was a massive corruption scandal, but it also showed that the Iranians are ingenious at sanctions busting and getting around Western strictures.
What do you make of with prices of oil plummeting, affecting not just Venezuela or Russia, but also Iran? I mean, they depend on gas prices staying fairly high, with gas now below $2. I think it was in Oklahoma City. Next it is in Houston. Will that have any impact on how we negotiate with them on the nuclear crisis?
It'll have some impact. I mean, the Iranians, psychologically, their most valuable asset is depreciating in value. But the reality is that right now, Western sanctions are actually locking up most of their oil revenues. So $120 billion of oil revenues around the world, the Iranians don't have full access to that money. They can only use that money for limited bilateral trade. So today it has a limited impact, but looking forward, if you're an Iranian policy planner and you're planning your budget and you are pegging it at $120 and all of a sudden the price of oil is at 70, in the medium term, you've got
Sure.
some problems.
Last question. Obviously, one country that continues to keep a very close eye on Iran in this region is Israel. Is there a sense that the Obama administration is trying to curtail Israel's move because they see the immediate threat? It's an existential threat to them. How has the Obama administration handled Israel's concern about Iran's nuclear capabilities?
Well, President Obama has assured the Israelis for years that he's going to stop Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. And unfortunately, I think the president has also done everything he can to block Israel's ability to respond militarily to that threat. And it's actually undermined the president's own negotiating position, because today the supreme leader of Iran doesn't believe that President Obama will use military force, and he doesn't believe that Israel will use military force. So the military option's off the table, the economic leverage is off the table. There's no more coercion left. Now we're engaged in diplomacy with one of the hardest, most intransigent men in the world, and we have no leverage.
And these are guys who are willing to go on for years and years. Mark Dubowitz, thank you so much for your insights. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, George.
Pleasure.
Thank